Exposed. The sinister secrets of Hatchet Pharmaceutical's cursed wellness experts revealed. Jenna woke to the sound of frantic whispers. The sounds were like a swarm of angry bees, buzzing through her mind as she turned over in bed, her heart pounding. "Mommy!" came Caleb's urgent call, breaking through the fog of her sleep. She shot up, breathless, terror gripping her chest. Something was wrong. The evening news had been filled with reports of strange illnesses sweeping through Willow Grove, and fear had settled in her gut like a lead weight as she pulled on her clothes. Jenna couldn't shake the gnawing sensation that something sinister was hidden behind the cheerful facade of her well-loved neighborhood. What had begun as a simple rash for Mrs. Thompson had morphed into rumors of a curse that weighed heavily in the air, deepening shadows on bright sidewalks. And the Morales family, with their son's horrific night terrors, the air crackled with unspoken dread. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The oppressive heat of the summer night cloaked her as the sun dipped low on the horizon. At the cookout with her neighbors, concerns bubbled in her chest like boiling water. The laughter and clinking of glasses felt hollow when she broached the topic of the mysterious ailments plaguing their community. The room fell silent. Cautious glances darted between them. Awkward laughter slipped away, and suddenly everyone was too engrossed in their salads to look her in the eye. What were they hiding? Later, she confided in Leah, her closest friend and a nurse, who spoke in hushed tones, her brows furrowing with worry. Word was spreading through whispered corridors, bizarre cases surfacing at the clinic, all following the rollout of a new experimental treatment. Jenna's heart sank as realization clawed at her insides. Her job, her safe little bubble, was tied to this terrifying revelation. The fluorescent lights of her clinic flickered as she returned home, painting long shadows on the walls. Tension crackled in the air as her thoughts spiraled. The whispers from the elderly about cursed wells tickled her consciousness, tempting her down paths she had sworn to ignore. A chill pricked her spine. Feeling watched, she closed the curtains, but not before glancing outside, spotting familiar figures lurking in the gloom. Citizens turned sentinels of something hidden. Was it true? The fear she brushed off now flickered like a candle in an impending storm. Determined to shield Caleb and Sophia, she felt a pull, a dark calling. The closer she got to the cursed well, the thicker the air became. Jenna sprinted down back alleys as the shadows enveloped her. Her heart raced with every terrified breath as she spotted neighbors she once trusted. Curiosity twisted their faces, menacing and wild. Were they watching her? No, they were stalking her, bearing the weight of their unimaginable secret. Panic surged through her veins as she stumbled upon the remnants of the cursed well, its dark mouth gaping, as if awaiting her. As Jenna gasped for breath, she realized she had crossed a line from which there was no return. What truth lay buried beneath its surface? What had she unleashed in her race to save her family? The chilling wind whispered a warning that rattled through her bones. Some secrets should never see the light of day. The wind howled, whipping around Jenna like a dozen whispering ghosts, tugging at her clothes, urging her to retreat. Her breath came in shallow gasps as she stood before the well, its gaping maw looming ominously before her. A sickening dread filled her, but there was no time for retreat. Caleb and Sophia needed her. The heavy silence pressed down on her, each heartbeat thundering like a warning drum. Gathering her resolve, Jenna edged closer to the well. There was something about it, something that felt alive yet dead at the same time. The walls were slick and dark, moisture seeping through cracks that resembled gnarled hands reaching out for salvation or vengeance. She dropped to her knees, peering into the abyss that held secrets heavy enough to crush the bravest heart. The air thickened, stinging her nostrils with a foul, dank odor. "Mommy!" Caleb's voice tore through the night again, sharper this time. With a sting of panic, Jenna jolted upright. She had to move. Fast. But the well pulled at her. Each curl of darkness seemed to wrap around her like a sinister embrace. She backed away slowly, keeping her eyes fixed on the well, its depths shrouded in an unsettling darkness. The whispers returned, louder and more insistent, swirling in her mind. They were calling her. But who were they, and why could she hear them? The velvety night pressed in around her, thick with the weight of unseen watchers lingering just out of her vision. As she turned to hurry home, a shadow flitted past the corner of her eye, stopping her dead in her tracks. It was Mrs. Thompson, now peering out of her brightly lit window, her face contorted in a mix of pain and fear. The same woman who had once laughed at block parties, now looking like an apparition from her own horrors. "Jenna, don't. You shouldn't be here." Mrs. Thompson's voice was a rasping whisper, her hand reaching out as though trying to pull Jenna back into the safety of the neighborhood. "Why?" Jenna cried, twisting the words out of her throat. "What do you know?" But Mrs. Thompson only shivered, retreating further into the shadows of her home. Jenna stumbled back, feeling the weight of panic settling in her chest. The night was thick with dread, every shadow a potential threat, every rustle in the wind a warning siren. She dashed away from the house, heading toward her own. Each step felt like an echo, the darkness clawing around her as though it wanted to drag her back into the depths of the cursed well. Then the ground shifted beneath her feet. Something surged from the earth, grabbing at her ankles strings of dark, sinewy roots that coiled like serpents. She kicked, scrambling to break free, but they only tightened their grip, pulling her down into the depths of Willow Grove's hidden madness. Panic turned to terror as Jenna wrestled against the unseen force pulling her. She glanced back, and horror gripped her. Facing her from the shadows were the familiar figures she had seen earlier, gathered like storm clouds ready to burst. Their eyes burned with an unnatural glow, glimmers of something far more sinister lurking just beneath the surface. "Save yourself, Jenna," one of them shouted through gritted teeth, but the words felt like a curse more than a warning. What did they know? What were they trying to hide? She fought harder, heart pounding, desperate to break free from their terrible hold. Just before she felt herself sink into the earth's grasp, she heard a crack, sharp as thunder. A light flickered in the depths of the well, illuminating shapes that danced and swayed like tortured souls. Jenna's gut twisted. What had she unleashed? She roared with defiance, struggling against the roots. But just then, Caleb's cry pierced the air again, distant but full of terror. "Mommy, come back." And in that moment, Jenna felt the ground beneath her pulse with a life of its own, pulling her closer to a truth she couldn't fully comprehend. She could save Caleb or unravel the darkness. But could she do both? As the shadows closed in, the weight of the community's secrets loomed large, and she realized she had to choose her path before morning light revealed everything or nothing at all. Jenna's heart raced as the shadows writhed before her, the chill of the night seeping into her bones. The roots clutched her ankles like the fingers of 100 dead, pulling her deeper into the earth, a place that felt more like a beast than a well. Just then, she tore her gaze from the well's depths, instinctively reaching for the distant echo of Caleb's cry. "Mommy!" The haunted plea bounced off the trees, growing weaker with each passing second. The figures lurking in the darkness shifted, a collective breath taking form. It felt both threatening and desperate, a silence that hummed with anticipation. Panic clawed at her throat as she realized they were not just spirits of the past, but lost souls seeking something they had never found. In their eyes, she saw the reflection of fear and longing, a terror that seemed to echo her own. "Please, help me." Jenna's voice broke, urgency crackling through her. "Let them go," one figure shouted, their voice rising above the whispers. The words plunged into her like a knife, twisting with the weight of dread. "Who?" she screamed, desperation wrapping around her. "Who is Caleb?" But the darkness consumed their words, twisting them into the rustling leaves, until all she could hear was the gnashing of teeth and sorrowful wails. They were warning her, yet she felt no direction. With one final wrenching pull, Jenna freed herself, tumbling backwards on the damp ground. But she only had a moment, so she bolted toward the flickering light in the well. The air thrummed with ancient warnings, debris crunching beneath her as she came closer. Each step felt like an act of defiance against the dark, their cries amplifying with her movement, a haunting chorus that urged her onward. Peering over the edge, The light revealed a shimmering liquid swirling like molten glass. Figures shifted beneath the surface, reflecting faces she thought she knew, screams muffled by the weight of dense water. "Caleb," she called again, leaning too far over the edge. Suddenly, the ground quaked beneath her. The roots snapped back like a rubber band, dislodging from her ankles as she flailed her arms to catch balance, crying out as she tumbled backward, limbs flailing. Pain coursed through her back as she landed hard on the dirt. "Mommy!" Caleb's voice was louder now, close yet heart-wrenchingly far. Jenna looked around, breaths ragged in her chest. The figures flinched, their eyes dimming for a heartbeat before they lingered back into the shadows, their faces becoming those of the townsfolk she once trusted, the teachers, the neighbors. "What do I do?" she murmured to herself, fear brimming over into tears. Their faces blurred together, so familiar yet shrouded in the veil of dark history. "What do you want from me?" The answer came not in words, but in a shuddering pause in the air. For a moment, all was still, as if the world itself waited, bated breath holding back a great storm of truth. Then, like a dam bursting open, a cacophony of voices erupted from the well. Images flashed: kids laughing, Mrs. Thompson's kind smile, Caleb's fragile laughter, all swirling into chaos. Jenna fell to her knees, clamping her hands over her ears, trying to block it out, but it seeped through her fingers. Together, the only way to set them free. They screamed, voices melding into one chilling command at their core. The words burrowed into her. Together. What did they need her to do? Together? She repeated, confusion crossing her mind. But how? Suddenly, chaos erupted as the world around her broke apart. Faces she recognized transformed into the twisted masks of horror, shouting as Lena was enveloped by their darkness, torrents of sound and shadow crashing together. Jenna scrambled to her feet, heart pounding. Something in her knew that she had to jump into the chaos, face the darkness to find Caleb. Together, the echo reverberated through her. Could it be so simple? But as the silhouettes moved, shadows stretching ominously toward her, she realized the click of the pieces unraveling was only just beginning. The sky darkened, and the air crackled with an energy far too familiar. A light flickered in her periphery, and Jenna turned just in time to see a figure rising from the depths of the well, as if summoned by her resolve. "Caleb?" she breathed, but the truth felt more sinister, gripping her heart with icy fingers. With nowhere left to run, Jenna stood her ground. Destiny loomed like a dark cloud, and she knew the next moment would change everything. Could she really face the darkness alone? Or would she find strength in the shadows? The figure emerged slowly, a silhouette against the otherworldly glow from the well. Jenna's breath hitched as she tried to make out the features. It was Caleb, or at least, it looked like him. But the way he moved was all wrong. Limbs bending at unnatural angles, an unsettling smoothness in the way he glided toward her. "Mommy," the voice was Caleb's, but layered with an echo that twisted it, darkened it. It crawled under her skin, filling her with dread. Jenna took a hesitant step forward, her heart screaming at her to run. "Caleb?" she called, voice thick with fear. "Is it really you?" He paused, his head tilting at an odd angle, eyes glistening unnaturally in the dim light. "Help us, Mommy, please." His plea pierced her soul, a hollow echo that unfurled the shadowy figures lurking at the edges of her vision. They stirred, inching closer, their eyes burning with unspent tension, as if waiting for a signal to pounce. She could hear them soft moans and murmurs melding into an unsettling chorus. Together, they cried once more, and it felt like the words came from everywhere and nowhere, a desperate chant that thrummed in the air. Jenna's mind spiraled. They wanted her to take Caleb's hand, to leap into whatever horror lay waiting beneath the surface. But was this really her son? Would she plunge into that darkness only to lose him forever? "Don't be scared, Mommy, I'm here." Caleb stretched his small hand toward her. The world around her pulsated with a sickly energy, drawing her closer, making her question everything she thought she knew. The ground trembled again, sending ripples of fear through her. She glanced at the well's depths, at the faces swirling in the oily liquid, not just Caleb, but other children she recognized from the neighborhood. Were they waiting for her? Were they real? The air thickened, swirling with the scent of rot and despair. Shadows twisted into grotesque forms, each displaying agonized faces, accusing her without saying a word. A scream caught in her throat as she pressed a trembling hand to her mouth. "What do I have to do?" she pleaded, feeling utterly raw and exposed. "I need you to believe," Caleb's voice faltered, replaced by the echoing whispers of the lost souls. They called to her, urging her to trust, to step into the very heart of the darkness, where Caleb's smile danced like a beacon. But what if it was a trap? What if she was a pawn in their game, destined to join them in eternal despair? Jenna was torn, caught between her instincts and the overwhelming pull of love for her son. Suddenly, Caleb's expression shifted. "Mommy, help me get out." His voice became a terrified shriek, piercing through the eerie calm. The shadows recoiled, momentarily shocked by his desperation. In that instant, Jenna lunged forward, bolting toward the well, consuming need overwhelming her doubt. "Caleb!" she screamed, but as she reached for his hand, the well's light surged, blinding her. The darkness swirled, spiraling into a maelstrom of shadowy fury. The figures erupted around her, a writhing, chaotic mass that threatened to swallow her whole. Together, they howled, voices drowning in a cacophony of eternal anguish. Jenna's heart raced faster than her feet could carry her, trapped in the relentless whirlpool of souls. Hope flickered in her chest as she grasped for Caleb, for the moment of connection. Then, the world shattered. The roots swelled around her ankles once more, clawing deeper into the soil. The chill seeped in like a parasite, knotting her stomach. She couldn't breathe. The brew of despair sharpened into clarity. She had to face her worst fears. The well promised to reveal truths buried long ago. But would she emerge on the other side, or drown in an endless cycle of grief? "Mommy!" Caleb's voice cut through her panic, now a distant echo mingling with the whispers that in that moment. Jenna realized she had only two choices: lose herself to the well or summon whatever strength resided in her, together or not at all. With a surge of determination, she drew a deep breath, ready to confront the abyss. But as she prepared to dive in, the heavy air flickered, and strands of a past long forgotten began to surface. What monstrous truth lay hidden in the depths of the well? What awaited her when she faced her darkest fears? Jenna felt her heart race as the blinding light dwindled, revealing the well's treacherous maw once more. The sensation of being pulled in grew stronger, a siren call wrapping around her like a chain. She snapped her eyes shut against the agony of the light, focusing on Caleb's voice, still echoing through the chaotic whispers surrounding her. Trust me, his voice, once bright, now bore the weight of something darker. Was trust possible when the shadows danced so shamelessly in the corners of her mind? With wobbly legs, she opened her eyes again, standing on the precipice. The faces of lost children swirled in the murky depths, their expressions twisted in fear and pain, mouths moving silently, as if trapped in a scream. A chill raced down her spine, anchoring her to the spot, but her maternal instinct surged like a tidal wave. "Caleb!" she called out, desperate and raw with emotion. "I'm here. I want to leave you. Mommy, together." The shadows pressed closer, a dense fog creeping toward her. They whispered her name, a sickly sweetness laced with venom. The air felt electric, charged with the anguish of souls bound in torment. Fear gripped her throat as memory flickered a time when she would have rushed forward without a second thought. But now she was paralyzed, caught in a web of doubt. Suddenly, the shadows lunged, surging toward her as if sensing her hesitation. Chaos erupted around her, limbs flailing and laughter echoing, mocking her dilemma. She yanked her gaze back to Caleb. He was slipping further away, his small hand wavering in the distance. "Mommy!" The desperation cracked his voice, and that was all it took. She couldn't allow herself to be paralyzed by fear, not when he needed her. Gritting her teeth, Jenna lunged forward, plunging her hand into the well's depths. The moment her fingers brushed against the cool surface, pain erupted, racing through her like wildfire. She cried out, fighting against the pressing weight of the darkness. Then she felt it, a connection, small and fragile, but undeniable. It jolted through her as an electric current, igniting something deep inside. "Caleb, I'm coming for you." He began pulling her in, and Jenna clasped his hand with fierce determination. The shadows writhed around her, clawing for her, but she didn't let go. The familiar warmth of her son surged through her, a lifeline dragging her from the brink. But as she pulled him closer, a horrific realization seized her. The shadows weren't just waiting, they were gathering, coiling around them like a serpent, hungry for sacrifice. "Help us!" The chorus of whispers grew, swelling into a terrifying crescendo that rattled her bones. She could feel the truth beneath their words, a desperation that mirrored her own. They were trapped, just like Caleb. "Stop!" Jenna screamed, an unexpected fury igniting in her chest. "You can't take him." The shadows paused, shifting uncomfortably, as if her words held some power. The light flickered again, brighter yet softer, revealing faces that twisted with agony and disgust. No longer just desperate voices, they became reflections of her worst fears, her failures as a mother, her loneliness in this fight. "Let him go," she ordered, her voice firm. For the first time, power surged through her, quelling the storm of panic within. With a sudden, violent lurch, she yanked Caleb toward her, dragging him out of the clutch of shadows. But as they broke free from the well's grasp, reality splintered around them. The ground quaked, and Jenna tasted the metallic tang of terror blooming in her mouth. "Mommy!" Caleb cried out, now fading back into the darkness. "No!" she shouted, reaching, but the shadows exploded like a storm, sweeping him into the void as the world spun out of control. Jenna fell to her knees, hands clutching the earth, a primal scream erupting from her throat as she felt a twin darkness lurch within her soul. There, in the shadowy embrace, a whisper slithered back into her ear. "You will join us eventually." The truth tugged at her mind. Had she unleashed something far worse than she ever imagined? What was the price of her choices? The well's light flickered ominously, casting shadows that twisted and turned, begging her to understand. Jenna steadied her breath, heart pounding in her chest. Before she could gather her thoughts, another voice emerged from the depths, hauntingly familiar. "You shouldn't have come here." Jenna, what awaited her next? Would she surrender to despair or fight against the terrifying fate that loomed? The ground trembled beneath her, the weight of shadows pulling her deeper into despair. Jenna's heart raced, echoing in her ears like a war drum. Panic surged. The well's light flickered like a dying star, casting erratic shadows that danced around her, seeming to taunt her. "Caleb!" she cried, the name breaking in her throat, raw with fear. "You shouldn't have come here." Jenna, the familiar voice hissed again, dripping with malice. Each word twisted knives into her gut. It was Caleb's laughter, now warped and cruel, teasing her from the brink of the abyss. She clenched her fists, fighting against the urge to fall victim to despair. She had to get him back. She had to fight. "Show yourself!" she screamed into the darkness, her voice strong despite the tremor threatening to betray her bravery. The shadows shifted, coiling tighter as if anticipating her next move. Jenna steadied herself, squaring her shoulders. "You don't understand," a new voice breathed, soft but filled with an insidious power. "Each soul taken feeds the darkness. It craves more." The words thrummed through the air, like a dark melody that resonated with her deepest fears. Suddenly, Caleb's face emerged, but it twisted grotesquely, distorted by anguish. "Mommy," he gasped, his voice trembling. "Help me!" His small body hung in the void, lost between dimensions, tortured yet still holding onto the light of innocence. "No!" Jenna's scream shattered the mockery of the shadows enveloping her. "I want to leave you." Gripping the edge of the well, Jenna felt a surge of raw energy ripple through her as she leaned forward. In that moment, she realized that the connection they shared was not merely one of blood, but of souls intertwined. "Stay with me," she urged, pulling harder as she dug her nails into the stone. The cold reality of the well's depths might consume her, but she refused to let Caleb slip away. "Mommy," his voice struggled to break free. "Hurry." A pulse of warmth shot through her, igniting a flickering hope as she felt Caleb's small hand reaching toward her. The shadows hissed, their insistence rising like a cacophony, urging her to abandon her fight. In that moment of reckoning, Jenna chose defiance. "Together," she shouted, forcing herself to hold onto the rising tide of darkness. "We fight this together." The very fabric of the well shimmered, momentarily torn as light broke through the suffocating darkness. For a heartbeat, it was as if the chaotic whispers recoiled, sensing her defiance. "You think you can save him?" They clamored, voices rising to a maddening pitch. "You are as much a part of this shadow as he is." In that blinding light, images burst forth, memories of laughter, stolen moments, and joy. She caught sight of Caleb in those fleeting glimpses, his smile brightening the darkness. But then, the light flickered, and the weight of shadows crushed down, trying to snuff the light before it could solidify. "Hold on," she cried, adrenaline surging. "Caleb, fight!" But the darkness clung to him, pulling him away, his eyes wide with terror as the well howled for another sacrifice. Just then, a figure emerged from the shadows, tall, cloaked, and suffused with malevolence. "Your naive hope is a candle in a storm, Jenna," it whispered, its voice liquid with malice. "You cannot win against the darkness you've invited." Fear crawled along her skin as she battled the instinct to recoil. Jenna lifted her chin, a new determination blooming within. "You don't know what I'm capable of." The figure's lips curled into a cruel smile, revealing sharp teeth. "We shall see," it hissed, the air crackling with dark energy. Then it surged forward, a wave of midnight, freezing her in spot. Time slowed. Air thickened. "Caleb!" she screamed, reaching deep within herself, channeling every ounce of love, every ounce of despair into one final call, one last desperate plea to be heard above the chaos. "Don't give in." But realization hit her like a brick. The shadows were moving. Would she lose Caleb forever? Would they both be claimed by the darkness? With every ounce of strength, Jenna prepared for what was to come, feeling it pulse through the ground beneath her. The entity loomed closer, shadows thickening around it. She had to act now, or risk losing everything. The question loomed large as the night closed in. Would Jenna embrace her own darkness to reclaim her son, or would she surrender to the depths of despair? The figure lunged, the darkness billowing around it like smoke, its cold tendrils snaking toward Jenna, wrapping around her limbs. She gasped, the frigid grasp tightening, squeezing the air from her lungs. Panic surged like a raging river, drowning out everything else. "Fight it! Fight!" she screamed at Caleb, desperate, with one arm pulling at the well's edge, her other hand outstretched. The shadows swirled like a storm, howling, as though they were trying to drown out her voice. They didn't want her to fight. Jenna's vision blurred, the light flickering faintly in her peripheral, but she wouldn't let go. Not yet. Not ever. "Mommy!" Caleb's voice was swallowed, yet the tremor of fear radiated through her. She felt a pulse in the ground beneath her, a beat sync with her heartbeat, loud and panicked. "Leave him alone." She clawed at the stone as the figure continued to approach, closing in like a predator. The shadows clung to her, dragging her down, but she harnessed the warmth that surged with each heartbeat. It fought against the freezing grip, filling her with strength. With newfound resolve, Jenna tore at the shadows, pulling them with her other hand, trying to disperse their weight. "Caleb, hold on." She fought to sound steady. "I'm coming. We're getting through this." But the darkness wanted her to believe she was powerless. It wanted her shattered. She screamed Caleb's name again, swirls of panic fueling her resolve. In a split-second decision, Jenna focused, calling on every joyful memory of Caleb, the way he giggled at the silliest jokes, the feel of his tiny hand in hers. She drew on those glimmers of light, igniting a fire inside her. The shadows recoiled, just for a moment. That flicker of hope was intoxicating. A chance, a single thread woven through the darkness that she could grasp, something pure enough to fight back with. But the lurking figure laughed, chilling and hollow, as though her spark was nothing but a flicker in its eternal night. "You think you can resist this fate?" It snarled, advancing with relentless dark energy. "You are entwined with the shadows, Jennifer. You cannot escape." Jenna's breath hitched. She shook her head furiously, a mantra rising within her. "I won't accept you." What she felt surging within her went beyond panic. It was love, a potent force that twisted and turned in her chest. "Every fiber of my being refuses to let him go." As the figure lunged again, she drew strength from that thought. The connection with Caleb, the warmth of his love, surged forth, illuminating a barrier between them. She could feel it swell around her like a shield. "Caleb, feel me. We're together," she shouted through the rising tide of shadows. She didn't just want to save him, she needed him to fight alongside her. Suddenly, she felt a jolt. Caleb's tiny hand grasped hers, a frigid touch igniting warmth as his spirit pushed back against the darkness. "Mommy, I'm here too," he called, a thread of hope lacing with desperation. In that moment, they connected. Jenna felt his energy intertwine with hers, lifting. Together, Jenna yelled, elation bubbling forth like fiery rage. The shadows screamed, a wailing cacophony, shrieking as though they were being banished. But just as the moment of joy surged into what could be an escape, a blinding flash of light erupted, illuminating the depths of the well. Jenna's heart quickened, fear mingling with hope. Had she really found a way out? Then, darkness descended once more. The figure's voice cut through the blinding light, cold and deadly. "You think you've won? This is only a battle, Jennifer. The war is far from over." The light flickered and faded into eerie silence, shadows creeping closer again, attempting to cruelly weave their dark comfort around her and Caleb's bright spark. Jenna's breath quickened, fear clawing at her chest as she felt the darkness trying to pull them apart. She tightened her grip on Caleb. "We want to let you take him." But with each pulse of shadows, doubt crept in, whispering that even hope can have its limits. Would their bond be enough to stand against the approaching storm? Or was this only the beginning of their fight? The air grew thicker, every second stretching painfully. And as darkness loomed larger, Jenna realized they were not safe, yet not by a long shot. A chilling thought echoed in her mind. What came after the shadows have taken you? Jenna's heart pounded like a war drum, each beat echoing against the silence that surrounded them. The shadows hissed menacingly, slithering closer, trying to discover the fear they sensed in the depths of her soul. The oppressive darkness pulled at her limbs like ice-cold hands, reminding her just how fragile their grip on hope really was. "Caleb," she breathed, not daring to look at the shadows curling around them. Those haunting whispers promised despair, a promise of separation. But the warmth of Caleb's tiny hand was a tether, holding her firmly in this world. Mommy Caleb's voice trembled, small and fragile. "I'm scared." Jenna's throat tightened. How could she shield him from this horror? "Stay with me," she urged, squeezing his hand harder, as if that might anchor him amidst the chaos. The darkness was relentless, tugging at her, murmuring sweet nothings of surrender. It wanted her to let go, to crumble into nothingness. With a steely resolve, Jenna closed her eyes, the memories of their happiest times flooding her heart. She thought about the backyard fort they built together, their laughter breaking the mundane. She remembered the way he splashed water at her during summer baths, the sunlight dancing on his face. That joy surged through her veins like fire, amplifying her spirit. The shadows recoiled again, fear flickering in their depths. But just as quickly, the figure writhed from the darkness, its face twisting into a grotesque parody of a grin. "You play with fire, Jennifer. It will burn," it mocked, tendrils reaching out like claws, relentless and angry. "No," she shouted, rising against the cold depths that threatened to consume them. A surge of energy erupted from their connection, flickering like a flame. "We're not afraid. You don't own us." The figure's laughter was a chilling echo, a malicious sound that echoed deep within her bones. "Fear is the strongest weapon against you," it hissed, growing larger, shadows coiling like serpents, scrabbling toward Caleb. In that moment, her heart sank with a realization. "We have to leave now." Jenna's voice cracked, desperation swelling as she pulled Caleb closer. "Where?" Caleb's voice wavered. She could feel his fingers tremble in hers as he fought against the chilling hold. "I don't know." Panic surged once again. Her thoughts raced. They had to find a way out of this nightmare. But as she looked around, the walls of the well seemed to pulse, as if the very stones were alive, closing in, denying any chance of escape. And then, the earth beneath them shifted. The pulse grew stronger, aligned with her heartbeat again, but thrumming with urgency, reverberating from deep within the well. It was a rhythm that filled the silence, a promise that there was something beyond the darkness. "Follow it," she cried, the circles of shadows shifting like currents under her feet. She couldn't explain why, but something about that pulse felt like a guide, a beacon of hope amidst despair. "Mommy," Caleb echoed, eyes wide with fear, but she could see a flicker of determination there. 2. Jenna tightened her grip and, with every ounce of strength, shouted through the veil of shadows, "We're coming to you." They started to move, stumbling as she fought against the tendrils grasping for them. The dark figure roared in frustration, its voice a keen wail that pierced the air, but as they pressed deeper into the vortex of shadows, crawling toward the pulsating light that bore hope, Jenna felt it again, the creeping doubt. What if there was no truth to follow? A jolt of panic coursed through her like ice, and the darkness seemed to swell, thickening around them. What if this only leads us to more despair? She thought, battling with the uncertainty swelling inside her. But Caleb's grip was steady, his little hand firm in hers. If they were going down, they would go down together. As they rushed forward, breaking through swirling shadows, a beam of blinding light shot out like a spear, radiating warmth and promise. But her heart skipped. Was it really a way out, or just another trap? With a deep breath, Jenna looked at Caleb. "Together always," she declared, feeling the resolve building within her. He nodded, belief shining through fear. They leaped toward the light, the dark figure's bellow echoing, shattering the air behind them. Just as they reached for the warmth, the ground trembled beneath them, and a new terror gripped her heart. What awaits us on the other side? The light pulsed, blinding, and darkness swirled like a storm. The answer lay ahead, but at what cost? The moment they broke through the light, it engulfed them completely, blinding Jenna and Caleb. For a heartbeat, it felt like being submerged in warm water, safe and tranquil. But safety was fleeting. With a violent snap, they were thrown from that comforting embrace. Jenna landed hard, Caleb tumbling beside her. The ground was unforgiving, dry and cracked, stained with a dark, viscous fluid that reflected the shattered remnants of the world around them. Desolation stretched out in every direction, a barren wasteland littered with remnants of forgotten memories. Jenna's breath hitched as instinct screamed danger. Shadows clung to the barren landscape like smoke, twisting and shrieking, echoing with the same menacing tone she felt in the well. "Caleb," she whispered urgently. He was there, curled up on the ground, trembling. "What is this place?" His voice cracked, each word laced with dread. I don't know," Jenna stammered, panic gripping her throat again. The air was heavy, saturated with whispers that curled around them like a noose. Before she could gather her thoughts, the shadows swirled menacingly. "Welcome to the grasp," a voice boomed, deep and resonant, echoing off the ashen walls of the world. A figure emerged from the darkness, its form shifting and fluctuating, constantly distorting like a reflection in a broken mirror. Jenna felt a chill seep deep into her bones. It was the dark figure, only now it took on multiple faces, an amalgamation of fears, past regrets, and unspoken truths. "This is where fears manifest," it continued, laughter bubbling up like dark oil. "Here, life and death dance together, and you are its guests." She grabbed Caleb's hand, squeezing tight. His warmth was a flicker of light in this twisted reality. "Run," she shouted, and they stumbled forward, desperately scanning the landscape for a way out. But the landscape shifted with each step, forcing them deeper into the abyss. The remnants of homes, toys, and dreams lay scattered, haunting symbols of lives disrupted. Jenna's vision blurred. Faces from her past danced in shadows, twisted with torment, their whispers clawing at her sanity. "Mommy, make it stop," Caleb cried, pressing his face against her side, his small body trembling. "Hold on, baby. Just hold on," she urged, her voice breaking. Her world spun. The ground beneath her feet felt unsteady, as if it too was losing its grip. They turned a corner, nearly colliding with a giant cracked mirror that stood upright, reflecting their creatures of insecurity and doubt. Each glance showed a new horror, a future where they were alone, without each other. She couldn't breathe. Fear squeezed her lungs as Caleb's soft crying echoed through the hollow specters. "Jenna," the deep voice snickered, teasing like cold fingers ghosting over her skin. "What have you brought with you? A child? How charming, but do you know how fragile he is?" "Stop," she screamed, desperation rallying her spirit. "He is not yours. Get away from us." "Ah, but he is trapped here with you in this realm of despair," the figure hissed, its voice becoming a spine-chilling wind. Jenna's heart raced. Was it true? Were they doomed to be trapped here forever? Just as the shadows pressed in closer, Jenna spotted something glimmering in the distance light, faint yet persistent. "Over there," she shouted, pulling Caleb into a sprint. They ran, fueled by an instinctive will to escape, but the darkness writhed around them. Laughter filled the air, hateful and mocking, as if the very shadows knew they were powerless against fate. With each rapid step, the glimmer of light grew stronger, warm and inviting. As they neared, Jenna glanced back. The figure loomed larger, dark and threatening, its many faces leering. "Run faster," she urged Caleb, whose breath came in small gasps, the shadows reaching with each passing moment. Would they make it? But as they surged towards the light, it flickered. Doubt flooded Jenna's mind. Was this just another trap? What if a voice chimed from inside her? What if it's a lie? Before she could ponder more, the ground lurched violently. The light dimmed, and Caleb stumbled, slipping backward into the darkness. "No, Caleb!" She lunged forward, instinctively reaching for him, but the shadows coiled around her, dragging her back. What will she choose? The figure taunted, shadows writhing with laughter. Jenna's heart thudded loudly in her chest, the choice looming over her like an executioner's blade. Was she willing to risk it all to save her son, or was it already too late? The light flickered once more, a shimmering hope amidst the chaos. But was it the truth, or just another deception? Jenna's heart thundered in her chest as she struggled against the shadow's grasp. Caleb was slipping away. The world twisted around her, shadows writhing like snakes, taunting her with uncertainty. "No, hold on," she cried, her voice breaking the oppressive silence. She felt their grip tighten as echoes of despair clawed at her, yet she took a shaky breath and surged forward, desperation guiding her. With every ounce of strength, she launched herself into the darkness, reaching for Caleb. Together, she screamed into the void. The very essence of hope coursed through her veins. It sparked a rebellion against the shadows, igniting the fierce light of maternal love within. "Mommy!" Caleb's voice cut through the chaos, a lifeline in the storm. She caught a glimpse of him, eyes wide with fear, stretching toward her. In that moment, everything else faded. The shadows, the malevolent figure, they no longer mattered. Only Caleb mattered. "Grab my hand," Jenna shouted, the words laced with pure determination. Caleb reached out, their fingers brushing against one another, a flicker of warmth lighting the cold abyss. She felt the shadows falter, hesitant for a moment as their connection wove magic in the dark. Just then, the dark figure loomed closer, its voice like nails scraping against her soul. "You think love can conquer all? You are mistaken," it bellowed, shadows swirling, creating a tempest of anguish. Jenna could feel the despair wrap around her like a vice. "No, love is everything," she yelled back, clutching Caleb's hand tighter, the warmth radiating through her. They bucked against the tide of darkness, a pulsing rhythm intensifying as their bond ignited the shadows into flashes of light and color. The dark figure recoiled, the harsh laughter fading as the shadows around them began to dissipate. The entity faltered, revealing flickers of uncertainty. Jenna pushed harder, drawing from depths she didn't know existed. "I won't lose you, Caleb. We are stronger together." With newfound strength, she yanked him toward the flickering light in the distance. Hope surged, pushing past the pain. The shadows clashed against their unity, swirling around like a storm, but the light glimmered brighter, the shred of truth shining through lies. "Mommy, please." Caleb's little voice wavered. "Just a little more," Jenna urged, scrambling forward, pulling him with her. Reality warped and shifted, but she refused to let doubt consume her. The light roared, fiery and hot, as she ran, dragging Caleb away from the clutches of the darkness. Then, like a dam breaking, the shadows recoiled, screeching in frustration. The well's dark magic was unraveling before them. The world spun, warping into a tide of light that enveloped them both. She felt that their bond was stronger than the darkest fears that sought to consume them. Together, they shouted, voices rising in defiance against the dark. The shadows melted into wisps of despair as they surged toward the light, a surge that promised safety. And just like that, they burst through the blinding light, swallowed them whole. Jenna fell onto cool grass, the warmth of the sun spilling over her, infusing life into her bones. She gasped, staggering to sit up as the scent of fresh earth and flowers filled her lungs. Caleb was next to her, his small frame trembling but alive. She gathered him into her arms, encasing him in unyielding warmth. "We made it," she breathed, tears of relief streaming down her cheeks as she held him tight. But as she looked up, the shadows lingered at the edge of the clearing, a muted reminder of what they had endured. Turning, she faced the well, now just an ordinary dip in the ground. But she knew better. The malignance that had once thrived there was still alive, and it warned her that though they had escaped, their fight wasn't over. "Mommy," Caleb murmured, leaning into her. "Are we safe?" Jenna looked into his eyes, seeing his innocence and vulnerability. Each flicker of sunlight reminded her of what they had overcome. "As long as we are together, we'll always find our way," she promised. In the distance, voices spun threads of dread, tales of lost souls and promises of darkness. But she felt something shift inside her empowerment. The courage she had summoned in the well coursed through her still, whispering that she could face anything if she stood together with her son. Leaning closer to Caleb, she kissed the top of his head. "Let us go home." The path ahead was uncertain, riddled with unknowns, but Jenna felt ready, armed with love and an unbreakable bond that would guide them. Each step brought them closer to the light of their neighborhood, to safety. A wave of gratitude washed over her, mixed with fierceness. They had dared to dive into darkness and emerge victorious. Now, this is your moment. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on more exclusive stories like this one. Hit that like button now to feed the algorithm. Your support matters. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how powerful love can be. The fight is never over, but together, we can conquer anything.